Frugal Crafter. It's time for another episode of Stamp School. It is brought to you in part by artneco.com. They have a beautiful selection of Asian-themed rubber stamps, as well as beautiful nature themes and washi papers, and all sorts of beautiful, gorgeous, deeply edged red rubber stamps. And the focal image we're using today is by artneco.com. I'll put a link in the video description so you can go check it out, find the stamp that I used, and also save 10% on your total merchandise order, or free shipping on orders over 50. You get to pick the discount that works better for you. So please go check them out and thank them for being such a wonderful supporter of the Frugal Crafters channel. That's how we bring you these videos all the time, folks. It's the wonderful sponsors like that. So we're going to make this card today. It's a wonderful wonderful card for like a child's birthday, a teenage birthday, or a girlfriend hello card. We're going to do some simple techniques, and of course you can mix up the colors, you can mix up the themes, and make it for whatever theme you need, whatever party or thinking of you card or whatever you need. So what we're going to do to begin, you take your regular piece of cardstock. Okay, I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see my paper. I cut it to 7 inches by 5. Okay, and I folded it in half. So what you're going to end up with is a little bit of leftover paper. Okay, and I save these leftover bits because they're great for testing out your markers or stamping sentiments. I usually have just like a little box or folder just full of these little strips because they come in really handy for art journaling, scrapbooking, whatever. I like to have them on hand. We're going to also need another little piece of white cardstock, and what I do is when I have scraps of white cardstock that are bigger than like 2 by 3, I put them in this little coupon organizer, and that way I have them. I'm just going to grab a piece of my inexpensive Georgia Pacific cardstock scrap here, just plain. I'm not using watercolor paper because I want to keep this very affordable for you guys, and I want to use the same products I told you we were going to use at the beginning. So why don't we do our background first, so this will have time to dry, and it's a great freeing exercise to do with our watercolor pencils. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit again, and this sentiment is from inkadinkado that we're going to use, and there's a set of these, and they're so sweet, and they're all these little greetings. Can you believe it? I've set my ink pad somewhere over the rainbow. Where's my ink? I'm going to pause the video camera so I can think. See, what I did was I put it away, after I made the other card. That never happens. Okay, so what I'm going to do is stamp the sentiment over here in my archival black, and that's a waterproof black ink, so I know that's going to work. Actually, we know what we do. It works better if we bring the pad to the stamp and we tap it. It's a clear stamp, so you really got to be careful that you've got it really well inked. It's the first time you've ever stamped with it. You'll want to probably scuff it up with an emery board. And I'm going to give it a couple seconds, as always, to let the ink dry. Remember, this is a beginner tutorial, so I'm going a little slower than I usually go. So if some of you seasoned stampers want to watch me at 2 times speed, I do not blame you. That is absolutely fine with me. We're going to use a few different colors here. Now, here's a quick tip for you. If you happen to want to use pattern paper, okay, you don't want to make your own background, you want to use a pretty pattern paper, pick your paper first and then choose your color mediums, because it's going to be easier to match the paper than trying to find paper to match what you've already colored. So there's a pro tip for you. I am going to start by just putting some strokes of my watercolor pencil. I'm just using some, whoa, that's not the color I wanted to use, but you know what, I've already put it down there, so I'm going to go with it. Sometimes that happens, so I'm just going to change up my rainbow here, put a little purple in there. Well, we're off to a great start, aren't we? I lost my ink pad and I'm going completely in the wrong order, but you know, we'll be fine. Art's about, having fun and having those fun little experiences that, make every card a unique piece of art, right? I think so. We're going to use a regular synthetic brush. You could use an acrylics brush or a watercolor brush. And you just don't want to have too much water, so I'm swishing it. Let me show you here. I showed you this last time. I'm going to swish it, and I'm going to just scrape it. Okay, that's going to give me the right amount of water on my brush. And since we're on cardstock, it's going to liquefy the color, but it's really not going to blend it very much, and that's fine. We just want a little bit of water there to liquefy it. Okay. We're also going to, there's a product I told you about before. We're going to use that today when we color a focal image, and I'm also going to tell you how to do a DIY version if you don't have the product I'm going to show you. But now look at that, it stays nice and vibrant. We can still see our crayon, it almost looks like kind of crayon marks or watercolor marks. It looks very innocent and kind of childish and carefree, and I like that. Okay, we're going to let that dry before we do our next step on the background, but we're going to get our foreground. We're going to do some stamping there. This cardstock is a little bit lighter, it's fine. And again, we're going to stamp our butterfly. The rubber stamps give you a better impression usually. These are so deeply etched that I didn't even put cushion on it. I just put a little, use a little glue stick and stick it to my mount, then just wash them out when I'm done. And, oh, I think I might have bounced it. We'll see. I think I might have bounced this before I pressed it down. We'll see if we get a good impression or if I messed it up. Hopefully got a good one. No, I got a good one. I thought I bounced it. I thought I hit the edge first before I pressed it down, but I didn't, so that was lucky for me. And then while this is drying, I'm going to show you right here. This is a blender pen, a water-based blender pen. It's different than the alcohol-based blender pens. The alcohol-based blender pens do not work well with the water-based material. And then what I do, I've had these for years, and Stampin' Up! Makes a good one, and Tombow makes a good one. I'm sure there are other good ones out there too, but those two I've used and they work very well. And when they start to get dry, or if they get really dirty, now the tip can be stained, doesn't mean it's dirty. I'm just going to scribble it off. See, it's clean. I'm not seeing any color. I'll actually just dip it in a little glycerin. I'll rinse it off and dip it in a little glycerin when it goes dry, and that will rejuice it, and it works great. Because sometimes your kids will use them and they'll get them all gunked up, and you'll just need to, you know, kind of fix things. So what we're going to do first is do some coloring. I'm going to color the outsides of these wings a nice light pink. The watercolor pencils I'm using are by Prima. You can use whatever brand you have. If you're going to go with the Primas, they have a bunch of different 12 color sets, but the thing I don't like is that they repeat their colors, so I wouldn't go and buy every set. I'd probably buy like the basics and the skin tones and call it good. If you already have a set of watercolor pencils that you're happy with, I would use those. And if you feel like you like to paint or color a lot of like images of people, I would get the skin tone set, because that has a really good range of the skin tones, and their kits they're $12.99 a set of 12 pencils, but I know Hallmark Scrapbook has them for $10.99. They're also a friend of the channel here. I'm an affiliate there, so when you order from them, if you do click through the link that I'll put in the video description, I get a small percentage of the sale, and that is wonderful. I do thank you for that. But I want to let you know, in case you don't want to, you know, or in case you think I have some ulterior motives. There, you know what my ulterior motives are. I guess I don't know. Oh my gosh. So what I'm doing here is I'm coloring all my light colors first. This is like a nice aqua color. And if you don't have watercolor pencils, but you have regular colored pencils, what you could do, you color them with the regular colored pencils and use baby oil or paint thinner, mineral spirits, turpentine, whatever you have that's a solvent, and you can blend them that way too. So then I'm going to go in with a darker shade of each of those, and like for the pink, I'm just going to add the dark towards the outside. Now look at this. Here's another tip I'm going to give you. We're going to cut this out, so there's no point in being too neat and tidy. Look at that. See, I don't even have to worry about the lines because I'm going to cut it out. All right, if you weren't going to cut it out, you'd want to be careful of the lines. But, you know, if you're just trying to get that birthday card made 10 minutes before you go out the door for that birthday party, that's a nice tip to know, right? Also, I know a lot of you guys, well, maybe not a lot of you guys if you're beginners, but a lot of stampers love the dies and stamps that match. So again, if you're going to use one of those, you can color right outside of the lines, and that will save you time too. I would really be choosy when you're buying dies and stamp sets. A lot of times the stamp sets are really easy to cut out, and the dies will really only work with those stamps because they're very specific. So I'm very choosy when I might get like flowers or butterflies if they're clear enough to look decent without being you know, die cut and stamped, because I like my supplies to be versatile, and those dies are expensive. So, you know, it's another little top tip for you. If you are going to get dies and stamp sets that match, try to find ones that are very versatile that you'll use over and over again, so that they don't just sit in a box gathering dust, because it's so easy to collect supplies, and it's so easy for the cost of them to add up. So see if it's really going to be that hard for you to cut out before you invest in the dies. And I'm going to add some of this pretty blue, which is kind of like a Prussian blue, around the edges of the aqua colors. So just make sure when you're picking a lighter and a darker shade that they're similar. They're not going to, you know, like I wouldn't put an orangey red next to a pinky red. That would look really muddy and gross when I added the water. So just kind of, you want to make sure they're next to each other on the color wheel, basically. Okay, so then I really like to use these these blending pens because they glide across cardstock a lot better. If you're doing this on watercolor paper, your water brush, your wet paintbrush is going to work great for blending. But on a cardstock, it's a little fussier. So what I'm going to do is actually going to start here in the dark, and I'm going to blend it towards the light. You cannot overwork this, guys. I mean, well, don't overwork it, I should say. You can overwork it and your paper might pill up on you. So you just want to kind of go over it once to blend and call it good. This will give you a very similar look to alcohol markers, like the Copic blends and stuff. But as you can see, you only need 2 pencils versus a a ton of colors. That's why I wanted you guys to get the watercolor mediums, like the watercolor pencils and the watercolor markers versus the Copics. Not that I have anything against those markers. I think they're beautiful. But when you're just starting out and you're not sure if you're gonna really dive into the hobby and budget's a concern, you want to make sure that everything you buy is going to serve you very well. So I just wanted to, that's why I'm not doing the alcohol markers in this beginner series. I just want to make sure that, you guys are going to get to know what I already asked you to pick up for the classes. Now see how much more blendy this side is to that side, and it will even look more blended as it fully dries. All right, so we're going to go around. We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to do all my pinks, and then I'll just scribble off my pen, and we'll do the other colors. Just be careful not to smear into that green. You can also turn, look at that. See, I can scribble it right up to the edge. You can also turn your piece so that it's easier to get in and around. If your tip gets frayed, I got a little of the green there, so I'm going to scribble out my pen. If your tip gets frayed, you can snip it very gently with a pair of scissors. I've taken off any little like fuzzy bits that way. Usually doesn't happen with the Stampin' Up! Ones or the Tombow ones. It happens quite a bit with the little plumes. But I've just had these for so long that, my kids use them. They get a lot of abuse. So I'm going to scribble off. And make sure if you are doing this, you're doing it in an area that if you're not going to cut out to the butterfly, you do it way away from it so that you don't, it doesn't end up on an area that you want to keep. And I'm just going to keep on going. I find it's a little easier to start with the dark and blend it out to the light than vice versa. I just make sure I put plenty of light in there so I've got plenty of medium for it to carry the darker color. Turn it so it's comfortable for you. Please let me know in the comments if you feel like my pace is too fast or too slow. I know I get carried away when I'm crafting. I fly. I just love to go quickly. So I'm scribbling off to clean. See how that cleans it off really well. This is double-ended, but I usually don't need to use both ends. And there, just keep scribbling off to clean it. That's the only thing you really need to remember. And definitely do that when you're done coloring for the day, because you don't want to put the cap on if the tip is inky, because it could stain it, or it could kind of, if it was really juicy, like you'd used watercolors with it or markers, it could like feed back into the barrel, and you don't want that. All right, so now that this is colored, we're going to cut it out, and I like to use, and I want to talk about scissors. So on this one, I couldn't find my cutter bees, which are these scissors right here, and so I always have these backup like kids scissors, back to school time sale scissors, and it was like trying to cut with garden shears. It was awful. These are so much easier to cut with. So if you're having a hard time cutting by hand, before you go out and buy dies for all your stamps, try a good pair of these micro tip scissors. They also make ones that are like non-stick, which would be good if you cut a lot of like foam tape. I don't have those. I just have these. They're about, I think they retail for about 10 bucks a pair, but I know I've paid like 6 to 8 most of the time. They have them in all the big box stores, and you can use coupons or wait for a sale. I'm going to cut the antennas off because it's very hard to cut around them to make it look graceful. And look, this is the tip that you probably learned in kindergarten. Move your paper, not your scissors. Okay? It's so much easier to move the paper, not the scissors. Maybe you didn't learn that in kindergarten. I remember teaching that to kindergartners when I was volunteering in my daughter's kindergarten class. Move the paper, not the scissors. So much easier. But it is kind of counterintuitive. I kind of wish that it was live and you guys could ask me questions, because I know I always think of things to ask when I'm watching a video. I'm like, how'd you do that? And then you forget the question by the time the video's done and you're ready to make your comment. So that's alright. Anytime you have a question, just pause the video, go ahead and make a comment, and then you can always resume. So many good brands of watercolor pencils out there too that Derwent, I really like. Pretty much Derwent really rocks with its water media. I love it. Let's see, what else? Albright Drawer by Faber-Castell is great. It's very pricey. Karen Dosh makes excellent water media. Lyra has great watercolor crayons. They probably have watercolor pencils too. Somebody told me the, shoot, can't remember it. The one that does the woodland, Koh Nord has some really good watercolor pencils. I haven't tried them. Reeves makes good watercolor pencils, and they're a bargain. And actually, I saw them at AC Moore last time I was there. I didn't realize they had those in the big box stores, and I think they had them at Joann's too. So they're good. They're a good budget buy. I think they're probably as good as the Primas. They're not bad at all. All right, so this is what we have here, and then we're going to go back to our background that we already made. And we're going to make a little frame around. You don't have to do this, but I think it looks nice. We're going to take our stamp mount, okay, and we're going to make a frame. So I'm just going to put that stamp mount right over there and line it, just kind of line it up, make sure it's kind of parallel to the edges of my on my paper. And we're going to use our water-based markers. Remember, I recommended these. I like the Spectrum Aquas or the Tombos because they have a nice fine tip. And I'm just going to, you can draw. Now I'm kind of keeping my head out of the shot, so I don't know, I'm just trying to make dots and dashes. We used to do that a lot in scrapbooking a few years ago. I still think it's kind of fun and playful though. Actually, you know what though? I think I saw Rubbernecker having some frames that looked like that at the stamp show that were kind of cute. So I think it's coming back. I think people like that handmade look. I think it harkens back to an earlier time. I just totally botched that frame, but you gotta see my head there. I haven't done my hair today. Pretty fascinating, huh? Yeah, so, you know, pretend that looks good. And yeah, pretend it looks like that one. That's the one where I had my head right like 2 inches from the thing when I was doing it, and I didn't want to expose you to my frizzy. It's raining, it's very frizzy here. And then I wanted to add some kind of speckles, and I could have done that before I put that down there, because this is going to be reactive with water, so I don't want to splash over that. So what I'm going to do is just set that bigger acrylic block there, and I am going to make some juicy watercolor to splash on there, and I'm just going to color out my some of my pencil colors. You could just add a wet brush to the tip of your pencils and it would work just as well, but I'm just going to try it this way because I did it the other way before, and I like to make sure things work well before you guys try them out. I have no doubt that it's going to work well. So I want a nice puddly bit of color here, and then, isn't that pretty? I like that. I'm going to cap up my ink pad though so I don't get watercolor on it. Do a little blue, and you don't have to do this, guys. Just like any step, if you don't like the way it looks, don't do it. You know, it's completely up to you. It's your artwork. It's a great way to practice some techniques though, to see if you like it, because it's just a quick card. We're gonna have this done in like less than 20 minutes, and now we're gonna glue down our butterfly. But before we do that, let's take our marker or something round and let's curl the wings. Okay, just round them. That's gonna give them a little bit of life. It will still mail fine, and it should still have a little pop by the time it gets to its recipient. You could put a little foam tape underneath it if you want to make it, you know, pop a little bit more. Gonna bend the wings a little bit there, so we got a 3D. A little bit of glue just on the body. And anytime, you can always dry things with a hairdryer or a heat gun if you need to, if you're impatient, waiting for things to dry. I try to like kind of make my card so I'm working on something else while I'm waiting for one thing to dry. We'll press him in there, and I'm just going to draw the antenna on with this pen. Now you could have stamped it underneath and glued the butterfly on top, but since I was curling the wings, you would have seen the other line, so that's why I didn't do that. Now if you want to add a little sparkle to your card, this is a product that you might want to pick up. It's very popular right now. It runs about $5 or $6 a tube, but it will last you a long time if you use it gently. If you can see the sparkle there, it's just some microfine glitter in a pen, and this is called Wink of Stella, and you can just put a very fine coating on and it will give you a little bit of glitter. That's completely optional. You could also you know, use a little bit of glitter glue stickles, or just glitter and glue if you want to from the dollar store. It really doesn't matter. This one, I did a little bit on this one. It's all dry. You can probably see a little bit of shimmer there. It's not too strong, but it's fun, and just something to try to see if you like it. And you can actually use this as a water brush when it's empty. You can fill it with water and get another use out of it, another glittery use, and then use it as a water brush afterwards. So it does kind of pay for itself. It's a really nice product, and I'll put a link to that below to Hallmark Scrapbook, where you can get it for I think about $5. So I want to thank you so much for watching. Please check out our sponsor, artneco.com, and don't forget to check out the coupon code below. Actually, you just got to mention the Frugal Crafter and they'll give you the deal. They're really awesome. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, happy crafting.